big difference is scoring, I think. The ability to get out of trouble and keep your score down.
Paul, and 2 pars on the first 2 holes were something to behold. Downwind, that's probably a 6-iron.
How about a 1? 10. How about a 1?
International Sports Videos presents The Azinger Way with Paul Azinger.
Looks pretty good. How you doing, John?
Hey, Paul. How are you?
Good. Good to see you.
Welcome to Lake Nona.
Great. It's great
What
to
a
be
day,
here.
huh?
Beautiful.
This is great.
Yeah.
Well, I was practicing that wedge because, you know, that's the one that saves the shots.
Well, I know. I think it's the foundation where really the golf swing is built. Is what, of course, is what you taught me. And you know, I came over here for 2 reasons today. Number 1, I guess, is I'd like to go over the fundamentals of golf again. Not just for my benefit, but for the amateurs and mostly the ones I play with. You know, every week that I play in a golf tournament, a PGA Tour event, I play with amateurs on Wednesday. And a lot of them seem to be unsure of what the fundamentals are, I guess, and seem to be having trouble hitting the ball correctly. And also, I think we can discuss a little bit about some practice techniques. So, what are the most important fundamentals, and what are the fundamentals?
Well, to go back a step, you know, when you said that you wanted to help your amateurs, one reason they play in pro-ams is to maybe possibly get a little tip.
Right.
And so the fact that you're willing to do that is very good. And, you know, the fundamentals haven't changed since golf was designed. The grip, the stance, position of the club at the top. And I'm sure that you've seen all variations of those 3 fundamentals with some of your playing partners.
Well, I know that grips vary. Yeah, I tend to hold the grip in what is considered a stronger position, and I see some people holding it in a weaker position. Is it true that as long as the palms are facing each other, that fundamentally your grip is okay, or is that not always the case?
I don't think that's the case at all. I could have my palms together like this, and I couldn't hit the ball.
Right.
I want my palms together where I feel like that my left arm is in a relaxed position, which it hangs more to the right than it does.
Which is
open.
the natural position.
That's the natural position. That's right. And if I get my left hand on correctly, then face the palms, I've got a good grip.
What about grip pressure?
Oh well, that's so critical because if there's only 3 places you hold the golf club in the left hand. That's the little finger, ring finger, and middle finger. The other 2 fingers are support. Okay. And in the right hand, when the right hand's put on with the overlapping grip, then I like to feel like it's in the trigger finger. So the grip it should be light so the golf club can swing.
Well, how light?
Well, you know, I really believe at the top of my backswing you could probably pull the club out of my hand. But on the downswing, I will, obviously, I'm gonna give it a little tug, but I think that's something that's subconscious.
Tightens naturally.
Naturally.
So then, you know, if I were driving home tonight from the golf course and I held the steering wheel as tight as most people hold a golf club, then my hands would be numb by the time I got to where I was going.
You might even have a wreck.
So obviously, you know, what would you liken the golf grip to? Holding a steering wheel? I mean, you obviously don't put a death
Well,
grip
the reason you would ever hold a steering wheel tight is the first time you drove, you were petrified. it's a fear of failure.
Right.
But now you could probably go down an interstate with one finger. I wouldn't want you to do it, but you have the confidence that in your automobile and your ability to control it. So if you can ever get a nice light grip and trust your golf swing, then you can control the club head just like an automobile.
Okay, so then you believe a good light grip is critical.
I think it's probably the most important thing. The grip obviously is the most important of the three because that's the only thing we've got control of the club head with.
Okay. Well, now what about the stance?
The stance should never be wider than your normal walking pace. I've never understood whether it should be shoulder, when they say shoulder width, whether it's the inside of my feet or the outside. So I know that when I'm walking, I'm on balance. I'm not pacing off a football field. I'm just walking at a normal strolling pace. Then that way, that's my driver's stance, and the stance gets narrower as the clubs get shorter.
The shorter the golf club, the closer your heels or
Right.
toes will be together.
And you should take a natural stance, just something that's comfortable. You want to feel free to move your knees and your hips and your ankles simultaneously.
Okay. Now, of course, you talk about the position at the top of the swing as being one of the three fundamentals. I know what the position at the top is, but I don't think most folks do.
Well, the position at the top is, there again, another natural position. And my wrist cock up and down, which is the strongest position. If this club weighed more, I could lift it up much easier here than I could around to the side because the weight of the club would start to tilt. So I always want to cock my wrist to where I feel like I'm under the club so the club can be in a vertical attitude. Well, if my wrist is cocked to the side, the club is what I call laid off.
Okay.
And a laid off golf club means you have to swing over the top of the ball.
This is obviously the strongest position you're in. If I
Absolutely.
wanted to push you over or something, I'd push you over this way. I wouldn't push you over
You got.
like that.
If you were going to push me, that's the way I'd like for you to do it.
Okay. Now, let's get back to the tension and how tight we should hold a golf club. Can't you liken the grip pressure to the way a baseball player?
Absolutely. He just has got it in his fingers, and I'm sure he's not gripping the seam. And he controls the power and his arm whip with his lower body.
Right, and a basketball player has the ball in his hands lightly, and
Right.
he's got that nice finger roll when he shoots the shot.
So but he's propelling his arm and hand with his lower body. He's not doing it just all arm.
Okay. Now, this may not be one of the three fundamentals, but I know it's one of the most important aspects of your teaching, and it's the turn. And you talk a lot about the lower body turn.
Well, it's just that it's all linked together. The lower body is what I feel like controls the whole golf swing. It's a level turn as if I was sitting on a desk chair, a swivel chair, on a pivot. And I don't want to ever come up out of my chair. I want to turn level. If my hips turn level, my shoulders are going to turn level.
Okay.
If my shoulders dip, my hips are going to dip.
And that's no good.
Well, I wouldn't even comment on that.
Okay.
It's horrible.
Okay. I know you've chewed my ear a few times for not turning level.
Well,
What in other sports, it seems like a baseball player and a boxer, they've got all their power in their lower body.
so
And
is
they
the
use
golfer.
their lower body. A fighter knocks you out really with his legs,
Right.
and his arms and hands just kind of carry the message. So I guess what you're saying is it's the same thing in the golf swing. If you make a good level turn, you're obviously coiling your lower body. That's
Right.
where the power is,
Mhm.
and the arms and hands are carrying the message.
Mhm.
Now, what initiates the downswing
The return.
of the
You
lower
see,
body?
your hips should always feel like, your hips or your lower body should feel like they're continually moving. Once you've reached the top of your backswing turn, it is time immediately to start back to the left side. So the hips are always in a continuous motion.
They're always moving,
They're always moving.
perpetual motion.
Perpetual, that's a good word.
So then actually, before you reach the top, you want to be thinking about initiating your downswing with your lower body turn.
Absolutely. The first move is get out of your own way.
That's a level turn.
Right.
You're not talking about a slide to the left side.
No.
You're talking about just turning to the left side.
Right.
Okay, that sounds good. Of course, the most important thing, or one of the most important things, if you're not holding it too tight, all this,
It'll flow.
the upper body will flow. You'll create rhythm and tempo.
Right.
Good. Well, why don't we go over those fundamentals again
I'd like to show you again, and that
in more
way
detail?
they haven't changed, but I will show you.
Okay, and also, if we can, we'll go through some of the warm-up techniques that I use when I'm getting ready to go out and play in a PGA Tour event, and maybe show some practice techniques and ways to get out of some of the bad habits. We'll show some of the bad habits today that a lot of golfers have, and how to correct them.
Well, I think that's a message that really needs to be delivered.
Well, we'll do our best to deliver that message.
We'll give it a go.
Great, let's go.
All right. Paul, I'll make these fundamentals as simple as possible for
Okay.
you. The golf swing should be thought of as a centrifugal move, just like the pendulum on a clock swings, back and forth. Now, if you notice, there's no pressure on this pendulum because I'm not holding it tight. But if I hold this club tight, now the effort I put into it to get the same amount is an awful lot. And golf should be an easy game. So that tells me that I'm holding the club light to let it swing. Now then, also, the pendulum doesn't have quite enough power in it. So my clock's power is in my lower body. So watch what happens when I turn my hips and turn my hips. It gets faster and faster with each turn. So if we use the pendulum or the centrifugal motion theory in hitting a golf ball, and visualize we're swinging at the same pace, back and forth, just as this pendulum swings. 1, 2. Then if we have a proper grip, a proper stance, and proper position of the club at the top, then we should be able to make a repeating golf swing. So the first and most important fundamental is the grip. If you notice, when your arms hang, your left hand always tends to want to hang to the inside. So that's when your arms are really nice and relaxed, is when your hand is hanging toward the inside. So I take my grip, and I recommend my students to take their grip with their left hand first, to the side. Now after you've taken the grip in your fingers, then you'll notice the V formed by the thumb and the forefinger is going to point somewhere between the chin and the right shoulder. So the pressure is in the little finger, ring finger, and middle finger, very lightly. So now then, the secret to the right hand is simple. If I put my right hand on just like I was going to shake hands with my left, I would end up with my palms opposite each other. So now the right hand is on correctly. I'm covering my left thumb with the lifeline of my right hand. So now I have a good grip, and the club is swinging very free. I don't have it tight. Now I can feel the club head, just as I could feel the pendulum head just a moment ago. Now I take my stance, and the stance should never be wider than my normal walking pace, which is, in my case, I have short legs, and this is about as far as my stance is. So now then, the ball position is very important, because I want to take the same swing with every golf club. So I cannot play every ball off my left heel, as I have seen other people try to do. I want to play my 7-iron off of the middle of my stance, and each club is a half-inch different in length. As they get shorter, I move the ball to the right. As they get longer, I move them half-inch increments to the left. So this wedge is played slightly to the right of center, because I use the 7-iron as the middle iron, which is the middle of my stance. Everything else goes to the left or to the right half-inch at a time. So now then, I take a nice comfortable stance. I'm free and easy. I'm ready to turn my hips. I place the club behind the ball. I relax my shoulders, relax my arms. Now to get to the position of the club at the top, which is the third one, I turn my hips level, let it swing back, and vertical. Now the club is in the perfect position at the top. My wrists are underneath it, the club is in a vertical attitude, and all I have to do to hit the ball is return, and it swings right down the line. So if you believe that, this should work. I've got it all in position. The grip's right, stance is right, and I'm going to turn and turn.
I don't know how you can hit that ball not looking at it. That was good, John. The fundamentals are really not that complicated, and I think you cleared some things up for not only me, but for some other people too. Thanks.
Well, you going to practice?
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to show people how to warm up. Well, I'm going to show them what I do so I don't hurt myself before I play in every PGA Tour event. Very basic, very simple warm-up. Okay?
Let me see.
All right. First of all, you want to make sure that you don't cause yourself any pain or any injury. I see so many people go to the practice range and the first club they pull out is their driver. Well, you know, that club requires more effort than any club in the bag to swing, and if you're not careful, you are going to hurt yourself. what I always do is grab my pitching wedge or my sand wedge. Even before I get to the range, I want to loosen up my legs a little bit, so I just do some very simple stretching exercises. I want my body to know I'm going to use it. And so I'll warm up my legs a little bit. Sometimes I'll pull back this way. It just depends, whatever leg exercise you like to use. I'll stretch my back. Just do some little turns. You just want to make sure that you don't hurt yourself. If you can stretch just a little bit, it's going to help. But most importantly, grab a short club before you go to hit your driver. I always start with my sand wedge or my pitching wedge. Then I'll use a 9-iron, and I'll go through the odd-numbered clubs in the bag. I'll go 7-iron, 5-iron, 3-iron, and then I'll hit some more drivers. After I'm done hitting my driver, before I just run out and go to the golf course, because the driver is the club you swing the hardest at, I'll go back and grab either my 8-iron or my pitching wedge to try to create some more tempo and some rhythm. These are the clubs that your rhythm is created with. These are the clubs you should start with to create rhythm, and this is the club you should leave the range hitting to also create rhythm. So let me go ahead and hit one. Nice rhythmic little swing, trying to get loose, and that's what really it's all about.
Paul, that was real good. Let's go to the putting green and get some shots and then play all the way back, show people what the right and the wrong way is.
Okay, that's perfect.
Okay?
I was looking at it, and it was an inside right putt, or maybe right edge at most. Not that hard to read. When it went in, I started backpedaling, got airborne, and threw my putter up, and it almost went in the lake, but I'm just thrilled to death. I don't know if I've ever heard anybody tell me about their round of golf when they didn't complain about missing some short putts, myself included. But times have changed for me. I putt more rounds now where I didn't feel like I missed a putt I could have missed. And that's because I changed my stroke. When I first got on tour 5 years ago, statistically I was one of the worst putters out there. My last 2 years I've been one of the best. I've made some necessary changes that have shortened up my stroke, and it's much more accelerated. It's more repeatable under pressure. I'm going to show you the changes that I've made, and I'm going to show you how you can help deal with some of that pressure. First thing I did was I changed my grip. My hands were on the club too far apart. I had almost a 10-finger grip. This finger was slightly overlapping, more similar to your standard golf grip. I felt like my hands were too far apart to have that short, accelerated stroke that I needed. My stroke was long and decelerated somewhat at the ball. This made for very inconsistent putting. So what I've done is I have moved my left hand over more and brought my right hand up the shaft up against my left. This is an overlapping grip I'm using. Both hands oppose each other with my palms facing out. As you can see, I've got my thumb not on the shaft, but up against my fingers. Looks funny, but it's very effective. Watch this practice stroke I make. You'll see my hands don't break down at all. It's made me a much better putter. Now I'm going to show you how I shorten my stroke. Now that I've got my hands on there correctly, and I'm able to make a more consistent stroke, I've done this to shorten it. I practice from 2 feet away, putting my putter head behind this ball right here and pushing it in the hole. Now I would stand here till I made 20 in a row like that. If I missed one, I'd start over. After I made 20 in a row, I did this. I would take the putter back as short as I possibly could and try to hit the ball as many times as I could before it went in the hole. This helped me extend through the ball. Keeps me very accelerated with a good follow-through. Now I would stand there and do that until I made 20 in a row. And if I missed one, I'd start over again. And you can bet that the last few putts that I tried to make were very hard. 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. I didn't want to miss them. So it's a good pressure experience for you. Now after I've done that, I'll go ahead and putt 20 in a row with my regular stroke, knowing if I miss, then I'm going to have to start over again. So you can see my stroke is very short and compact. And there have been days when I've been able to do this pretty quick, and then there have been days where I've been out there for a couple hours trying to get the 20 in a row in. After I've done that, I'll go back to 6 feet from the hole, which is what we're going to do now. I'll stand here until I make 10 in a row. Now obviously you've got to be dedicated to do this, but I'll guarantee you it'll make you a better putter. You'll notice my stroke, still very short and compact, and I follow through straight to the hole. It's most important under pressure to develop a stroke that's repeatable, and I've done that by shortening my stroke. Most amateurs that I play with stroke the ball too long on the way back and decelerate or virtually stop the putter head at the ball. It's very hard to be consistent that way. We're going to go back and hit some 30-foot putts. I'm going to show you my stroke is still very short and compact, yet very effective. From the 30 to 40-foot range, obviously you're not going to make a lot of putts. Your objective should be to try to two-putt as many times as possible. And to do that, you have to have good speed. When I'm in a golf tournament, I try to imagine a bucket around the hole. It's so much easier to feel your way into that bucket than it is to feel your way into a cup that's 4 inches around. It is so important before you play golf to hit some putts before you go out. If you don't do that, you're not going to have any feel and you're liable to lose 4 or 5 shots the first 4 or 5 holes. So just take the time to hit a couple putts before you get on the golf course. You can still lag putts properly, the proper distance, with a good short compact stroke. It's so much more repeatable under pressure. Watch my 30-foot stroke. That's a lot shorter than you'll see most people stroke it from this length, but it's very repeatable, especially under pressure. If you apply these practice techniques to your game, I guarantee you, you'll be a better putter. A good putting stroke should be a pendulum-type motion. Try to use a grip where your hands are close together so that your shoulders, arms, hands, and putter can work together as a unit or as a pendulum. Stances vary. Just make sure you have a comfortable stance with your eyes over the ball. Everybody knows that chipping and putting is where strokes are either saved or lost. Now that we've gone over the fundamentals of putting, we're going to go over the fundamentals of chipping. All this stroke is that I'm going to use, it's a pitch and run 7-iron. It's an extension of the putting stroke. I'm going to use my regular golf grip instead of my putting grip, and I'm just going to make a pendulum type motion. It's very simple. I'm going to put weight on the left side of the dress, on my left foot of the dress. I'm going to have the ball slightly back in my stance. You want to make sure that you hit down on this shot. Most amateurs will hit this shot on the upswing. You want to take enough club that you can land this ball on the green. A lot of people make the mistake of chipping this ball into the fringe of the green and they get very inconsistent hops. If you take the club that will allow you to fly it on the green, it's different for everybody, then you can eliminate one variable. A good chipping stroke should also be a pendulum type motion. Use your normal golfing grip. I suggest in your stance that it be slightly open with weight on your left side. When you swing the club away, use very little wrist cock and make sure that the head of the club goes back low. Notice the impact position. My left arm and shaft are in a straight line, and the club head is not past my hands at the ball. If your club head passes your hands at impact, then you're probably scooping the ball and hitting it on the upswing. You need to hit this shot on the downswing. The takeaway is a very deliberate and as one piece of motion as I can make away from the ball. The pitching wedge is probably the most versatile club in the bag. You can use it around the green, you can use it from 20 yards out, and you can use it from over 100 yards out if you want to. Right now we're 100 yards away from the hole. I've learned to control this shot and this distance with my lower body. I have very passive hands and passive arms. I just let them swing, but I let my lower body control the distance of this shot. This shot has been the foundation for me to build on all the other clubs in my bag. This is where I've learned tempo and rhythm. This is where I learned how to feel my footwork. This is where I learned what a good loose grip was and good loose arms are. It's the most important club in the bag because it is so versatile. This is where you do most of your scoring. The putter, the chipper, and this pitching wedge. I'm going to do a little bit of my pre-shot routine right now. I'm going to show you how to set up consistently every time. First of all, you want to get a couple steps behind the ball. You want to look at your target and visualize the trajectory you want to hit this shot on. As you approach the ball, continue to look at the target. Set the club down behind the ball and try to line it up at the flag. And as you look at the target, plant your left foot. This gets your ball position exactly where it needs to be. For me, it's slightly behind the center of my stance. I want some weight on my left side of the dress, and I want to control this shot with my lower body. My hips will initiate the backswing, and they will initiate the downswing. If I want to hit this 100 yards, I speed my hips up. If I want to hit it 50 yards, I won't use my hips quite as much. You have to hit enough of these shots to develop the right amount of hip speed so that you can control your distance. This is the most repeatable action in the bag. It's so much easier under pressure to repeat your hips than it is your arms and hands. You don't hit this shot with your hands, you hit it with your lower body. Let me demonstrate. My hands were very passive through that shot, and I knew I had 100 yards away. I was 100 yards out, and I controlled that shot with my lower body. If I was 80 yards out, I would have just used a little less hip speed. So you see what I mean? It's so much more repeatable under pressure than swinging with your arms and hands. Learn to develop good hip action, and you learn how to control your distance better, and you'll score better. At the address position, my whole body is relaxed, especially my upper body. I start the club back with my lower body turning to the right. At the top of the swing, I'm still very relaxed. My grip pressure feels the same as it did at the takeaway. The continuation of my lower body turn allows the club to work into a vertical position. Notice the impact position is the same as the chipping stroke. I get the feeling of trying to leave my club at the top when I initiate the downswing with my hips. This creates the desired pause at the top. I imagine when I'm swinging that I'm turning in a barrel. If I slide back or through, I'll hit the sides of the barrel and tip over and fall down. Notice also that I'm hitting the ball on the downswing with my weight on my left side at impact. There are several occasions when you'd like to be able to work the ball from right to left or left to right. You do that by changing your ball position and your swing plane. Here I'm demonstrating the straight plane. I use this when I don't want the ball to curve one direction or the other. The ball is positioned slightly behind the center of my stance, and I try to swing the club straight back and straight through. The draw plane, I want the ball to work right to left, so I've moved the ball a little further back in my stance than I would in my straight plane. The club swings more on the inside and comes down from the inside and swings to the outside. To hit a fade, I've moved the ball up in my stance. I try to swing the club back on the outside, and I come down from the outside and swing slightly across my body. This produces a left to right spin. In all three swings, notice my hips and shoulders have turned exactly the same. In these three swings, you can clearly see the difference in the position of my hands at the top. That is dictated by the path of my backswing. The downswing is a mirror of the backswing. You can clearly see on the left, my club, which started back on the inside, is swinging down from the inside to the outside. That creates a draw. The center picture, using the straight plane, the club is worked straight back, and you can clearly see that it is working straight towards the target. In the picture on the right, which is the fade plane, you can see that my arms have swung to the left or across my body. This is because the club swung back on the outside and is coming down from the outside. Here I am demonstrating what I see as the most common fault most amateurs make when trying to hit a wedge. The ball position is usually too far forward in their stance. They use little or no leg action and hit the ball in the upswing instead of on the downswing. By using my upper body at the start of the downswing instead of my lower body, I have virtually fired and fallen back. As you can see, I am now on my right side at impact. Notice the picture on the left, I'm on my left side and in a very relaxed position. In the picture on the right, I'm in a very contorted, stiff position with all my weight on my right side. Now we're going to show you the similarities in the wedge, the 7-iron, the 5-iron, and the 3-iron. As John said in the beginning, the 7-iron is the middle iron, and the ball should be positioned in the middle of your stance. Like the wedge, I have about 60% of my weight on my left side at address. Equally as important, my shoulders, arms, and hands are very relaxed at address. I can't stress enough how important it is to have a light grip. My lower body is also very relaxed. My knees are slightly flexed, and I'm in a very athletic position at address. As I begin the swing, my club head, my hands, and my hips all start at the same time. As I continue the backswing, my hips and shoulders turn very level behind the ball. As John has taught me, the downswing is initiated with a level turn of my hips to the left. As everything continues to turn to the left, I've reached impact position with my hands slightly ahead of the ball. The follow-through is a result of the centrifugal motion of the downswing. With the 5-iron, the swing is virtually the same as the 7-iron. The only difference here is that my ball position has moved an inch closer to my left heel at address because the 5-iron is an inch longer than my 7-iron. The wedge through the 7-iron are clubs that I can be very aggressive with when I'm swinging well and shoot a lot of pins. Now that I've got the 5-iron in my hand, I need to be swinging extremely well to shoot at pins. I'll be more likely with this golf club to shoot at the middle of greens. The continuation of the turn has brought my club up to the proper position at the top. The club is sort of horizontal and my hands are directly under the shaft. In this picture, it is evident that my lower body has initiated the downswing. If my arms or hands would have initiated the downswing, my left arm and the shaft of my club would be in virtually a straight line. But as you can plainly see, my left arm and the shaft of my club are at a 90-degree angle. Unfortunately, you can only release the club once. If you've released it from the top with your arms and hands, you'll have no power left at impact. The 3-iron is one of the hardest clubs in the bag to hit. It is critical that you stay relaxed at address with this golf club. The address position with the 3-iron is the same as the address position I used with the 7 and the 5-iron, except I have moved the ball 1 inch closer to my left heel. I had it with my 5-iron. Notice the different ball positions in the 3-iron, the 7-iron, and the wedge. Notice the similarity in the stance, how the width hasn't varied. You can also see the similarities in the 3 swings. The wedge swing on the right is a little shorter because the club is shorter, but if you notice that they all 3 return to the same impact position. Also pay close attention to my belt line. Notice that in all 3 frames, my belt is perfectly level. Even for an accomplished player, a 3-iron is a hard club to hit, and as a rule, I usually aim at the middle of the green. Because the 3-iron is a little bit longer, the tempo should be a little bit slower during the swing. In this bad 3-iron swing that I'm demonstrating, I've gripped the club extremely tight. I've thrown the club from the top with my arms and hands instead of initiating the downswing with my lower body, and I've tried to hit it on the upswing to simulate what I see most amateurs do. These 2 backswings are very similar, but in the picture on the left, you can see that I've initiated downswing with my arms and hands, which has caused me to hit up on the ball. The picture on the right, my lower body has initiated the downswing, and I'm in a beautiful impact position, and I've finished with my weight on my left side. When the money's on the line, and I'm in a pressure-packed situation, I'm trying to let the club head swing and turn in a barrel. Now we're to the driver, one of the 3 most important scoring clubs in the bag. We've already talked about the putter and the wedge and how important they are at saving strokes. If you don't drive the ball good, you're going to have a hard time scoring. For me personally, it's what I have to work on the hardest. I know that if I'm driving the ball in the fairway, I have a chance to shoot a good score. You know, this club is about 5 inches longer than the pitching wedge. The swing is virtually the same. It just takes a little longer to develop, and the swing is just a little bit longer because the club's longer. The routine is basically the same. The thing I'm going to do is get behind the ball and visualize where I want to hit it. I want to see the trajectory I want this ball to start on, and I want to visualize it ending up exactly where I'm looking. I take a couple steps towards the ball, staying slightly behind it or almost even with the ball. I put my club down behind the ball, trying to line it up to the target, and as I look at the target, I plant my left foot. get my ball in the perfect position at address, which for the driver is just inside the left heel. This is the only club in the bag that you want to hit on the upswing. Every other club in the bag you hit on the downswing. This is also the only club in the bag where weight is distributed 50-50, with half on your left leg and half on your right leg. Every other club in the bag, you want to favor your left side slightly. I like to have the weight distributed on my feet even between my heels and the balls of my feet. Some people like to have more weight on their heels, and some people like to have more weight on the balls of their feet. You want to be in an athletic position, kind of like a shortstop getting ready to catch a ground ball, or a tennis player waiting to hit that forehand. So it's whatever's comfortable for you. For me, it's right in between my heels and my toes. Now that I'm in a good position at address, all I'm going to try to do is make a good level turn with my shoulders and my lower body. I want my hips and my hands to start back at the same time. I make a good solid turn as full as I can make it, and then I return back to my left side. Let me hit one. Notice where I finished this swing? I've got all my weight on my left foot. I can lift my right foot up and I'm in perfect balance. I see so many amateurs try to hit this driver and they'll finish back on their right foot. It's kind of like shooting a cannon out of a canoe. The ball doesn't go very far and the canoe goes straight backwards. You're in terrible balance and you're not going to get a solid hit. So remember, just make a good full turn. Try to get on your left side at impact, and you'll hit better shots. This, to me, is one of the most important clubs in the bag, and I can't emphasize enough how important it is to hit a lot of drivers. As you can see, I'm in virtually the same address position with this club as with every other club in the bag. The only difference is that my weight is distributed evenly on both feet. Because your weight is distributed 50-50, and the ball is on a tee, this is the only club in the bag that you want to hit on the upswing. It is probably more important to swing level with this club than any other club in the bag, because the length of the club exaggerates the errors that you make. In the overhead shot, you can see that the club is swung on a level plane around a fixed axis. In this position, my shoulders are very relaxed. My arms are hanging freely from my shoulders, and I'm holding the club with a very light grip. This allows me to make a tension-free swing. The backswing with the driver is very similar to every other club in the bag, but because the club is a little bit longer than every other club in the bag, I feel like the turn is a little bigger. Here again, my downswing is initiated with a turn of my lower body to the left. Although this club is hit on the upswing, I am still on my left side at impact. I am in a good, balanced, relaxed, finished position, and I can easily pick my right foot up. To achieve this feeling, I have started my lower body turning to the left before the club has reached the top of the backswing. Because the ball is on a tee, there's a tendency to feel like you can just kill it. Well, that's not what you want to do here. You want to still remain very relaxed and very smooth. Notice that my head is behind the ball. If you were trying to kill it, more than likely your head would be even with or out in front of the ball. A proper takeaway should let the club head go back very low with no effort to make any sort of wrist cock. Now watch before I reach the top. my lower body will initiate the downswing. Now I've retained a beautiful angle which will give me a powerful hit at impact, and the club will swing centrifugally through the ball to a perfectly balanced finish. In the bad swing, I have purposely held the club too tight and aimed a little bit to the right. My upper body has initiated the downswing, which has caused me to come over the top, my left leg to straighten, and to be on my toes at impact. I swing the club back, it looks pretty good, but as you can see, I begin to come over the top, my hands swing out away from my body, and I hit the ball right on top. On the good swing, you can see that I'm in a very similar position at the top as I was in the bad swing. The difference is I'm aimed a little further to the left, which has allowed me to let my lower body initiate the downswing, which also brings the club down from the inside swing to the outside. I realize that most of you don't get to practice nearly as much as you'd like. The quantity practice time doesn't necessarily mean you're going to improve. It's the quality of your practice that will ensure that you take strokes off your game. I've got a little tool here that I believe will increase the quality of your practice. I've laid down 3 clubs. I use this outside club here to line this ball up, or to line up where I want to hit this ball. I use this inside club to get my body on a line parallel left of that club. These 2 clubs are parallel. This club right here in the middle is perpendicular to both these clubs. And this is the club I use to check my ball position. When you don't get to play much, it's your stance and your ball position that are usually messed up. And this is how you can check it. If I want to hit a driver, I put my heel up against this club right here with the ball right on the end of it. And I know that I want to hit this driver with the ball position just off the heel. So I'm in perfect position. I also know that if I want to hit a 7-iron, I've got to have the ball in the center of my stance. So all I do is I just move my stance till I got this shaft in the middle of my stance. And now for this wedge, I know that I need to be slightly behind the center of my stance with my ball position. And all I've got to do is hit it. You can accomplish more hitting 50 balls this way than you can hitting 200 balls by just throwing them down and hitting it. It's the quality of your practice time that's going to make a difference.
Paul, that was a really good tip. That's got to be a stroke saver.
I hope so, John. And I hope that you folks will be able to apply the fundamentals we discussed in this video to your game. Go out there and have a good time. Enjoy the sport that we all love so much, and we'll see you next time.